What do you do?
When things don't go according to plan?
When you fail?
What do you do when the regret
keeps replaying and the silence
between you and God feels louder than ever? You thought
you were past it.
Thought you'd moved on.
But somehow, the failure still
follows you. And then, there he is.
Waiting.
Waiting, saying
nothing, yet saying everything. What do you do when the ending isn't the end?
Well, happy Easter, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Let's look across this crowd. How many people are here today? So grateful. So guess what? At 8 o'clock this morning, the room looked just like this. So many people came at 8 o'clock, and they made room for others. And many of you in this room have had some holy donuts this morning because you parked off campus, and I'm so proud of you. You made room for others. Thank you so much. And for all of you that are joining us online, we're so grateful that you're here. Over the course of a few months, we will end up having people from all 50 states that join us online and from 33 different countries. So today, Easter Sunday, I don't know how many of you from different countries are with us in different states, but wherever you live, Jesus is alive, and today is Easter Sunday. Amen. It was in 1986, and the Boston Red Sox were 1 out away from winning the World Series. 1 out away. They hadn't won the World Series since 1918. 68 years, but now they are 1 out away, and they're world champions. And the crowd is going crazy, and they're applauding and cheering, and there is so much electricity in the room. 1 out away, and this is what happens.
And another chance at going home tonight with their first championship in a generation. Welcome to a moment in history.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
And the Red Sox aren't world champions. The New York Mets are. The media blamed Bill Buckner. You saw him miss the grounder. It's easy. It was an easy grounder. He just looked up at the wrong time. Story after story after story blaming Bill Buckner. And in fact, he started getting hate messages and hate mail and death threats. And Bill Buckner said, "The whole world sees me as a failure." All of us have failures. All of us have successes, and all of us have failures. And sometimes the failures that we have are so deep, and our wounds so deep, and our disappointments so deep, that we think we'll never get on the other side of it. But failures aren't people. Failures are events that happen to people. And all I'm trying to say is you can't let a failure decide who you are. You can't let a failure determine your destiny, determine your value. You can't let a failure define you. There's only one person who can define you, and that is the God of creation. And He says you are a child of the Most High God. He says He loves you. He receives you. He accepts you. He doesn't just know who you are now. He knows who you're going to become. He loves you, and He has welcomed you into His family. God says, I want to do something in your life. I want to make a difference in your life. You have no idea what I'll do if you'll give me the opportunity. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about the whole issue of failure and this story that happens in John chapter 21 as one of the resurrection stories really helps us to better understand life. The first thing that it's actually teaching us is that failure is a part of everybody's story. Look at what he says in John chapter 21 and verse 1. After this, Jesus revealed himself again. After this, after what? After chapter 20. In chapter 20, Jesus rises from the dead. He begins to appear to so many people around. And then all of a sudden, he emerges in the upper room with his disciples, and they're all there except for Thomas. He's out running an errand somewhere. I don't know what he's doing, but he's not in the room. And all the other disciples are there, and Jesus talks to them, and they talk to him. And don't think this is the only time, because the truth is, the Bible says for the next 40 days, Jesus every day is spending time with his disciples. He is taking them through all the things he's already taught them, but this time they're listening. This time it's a resurrected Jesus. They know he's alive. This is no mirage. He's talking to them. They're talking to him. And then he disappears, and here comes Thomas. He walks in the room, and the disciples said, Thomas, it's true. All these stories we're hearing is true. Jesus was here. We saw him. He spoke to us. We spoke to him. And Thomas says, I will not believe, not until I see the scars of the nails that are in his hand, and I put my finger through those holes, and I put my hand in his side that the spear went through. I will not believe. Well, a few days later, in comes Jesus through the door. I don't mean through the doorway, through the door. And suddenly appearing, and there is Thomas. And he went right to Thomas, and he says, Thomas, here's my hands, put your fingers through the holes. Here is my side, put your hand. Don't disbelieve anymore. Believe in me. And Thomas fell to his knees and he said, my Lord and my God. Now, both times that this happened, Peter was in the room. Peter's the boisterous one. He's the one who always is going to be stage center. He's going to always be the guy who talks. He says not one word. And he's not stage center. He has sort of recessed to the back of the group. Why? Because he's so ashamed. He's so embarrassed. He doesn't even want to speak. He's so glad Jesus is alive, but he doesn't even want to look into Jesus' eyes. Why? Because the night before Jesus was crucified, they had had the Lord's Supper together, the observance of the Passover together. And after the Passover was done, Jesus said to his disciples, tomorrow I'm going to be crucified. They're going to kill me, and all of you are going to flee. Not one of you are going to stand with me. And Peter said, oh, well, that may be what happens to these other guys, but it won't happen to me. I will stand with you. And if you die, I will die right alongside you. And Jesus said, Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will have denied that you even know me 3 times. Peter didn't believe that, but it played out exactly what Jesus said. They arrested Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and they took him, and Peter followed, but at a distance so that they wouldn't know he was coming. And Jesus was taken to Caiaphas's home, and he had a big courtyard right there in front of the house, and Jesus is on the far side of the courtyard, about to go in the door. Here comes Peter, and he gets away to come into the courtyard, but a distance from Jesus. And he's warming himself at the fire. And while he's warming himself, a little girl who noticed him said, I've seen you before. You're one of the disciples of Jesus, aren't you? And he said, no, I'm not one of the disciples. You don't understand what you're talking about. And another girl that was there, a young woman, said, no, I was at one of his teachings. I saw you very clearly. I recognize you. And Peter said, you're crazy. You don't understand. I don't even know who that man is. And a few minutes later, there is a man who says, you've got this Galilean accent, and all of his disciples are Galilean. You must be one of the disciples. And Peter cursed, and he said, I've never even met that man. And then he heard the rooster crow. And the moment that he did, he looked up, he remembered. And of all things, Jesus was about to go into Caiaphas' house and through the doorway. But Jesus stops when he hears the crow. And he turns to Peter, and Peter turns to him, and they lock eyes. For just a second, And then Peter put his head down and ran and cried like a baby. The key moment of his life. And he failed. Not like the other disciples. They ran, but they didn't deny Christ. Not like Peter. When you get to the end of chapter 20 of John, it sounds like he's wrapping it all up. I mean, you read the last few verses of the chapter and it sounds like, okay, well, it's okay. The book's done. You turn the page and there's another chapter. What's the other chapter for? And it's almost like John, as he's writing and he's coming to the end, oh, wait a minute, I cannot shut this gospel down until you know what happens to Peter. Because the gospel is not just the story of Jesus, it's the story of Peter, it's the story of you. It's the story of me. So what failures? What disappointments? What wounds have struck into your heart? And you don't think that your life is now going to turn out the way you dreamed. What has happened to you? This is how the chapter opens, because failure is a part of all of our story. But it's not where it ends, because the next thing he shows us in the passage is that failure doesn't get the last word. Jesus does. Look at John 21, verse 1. Jesus appeared again to the disciples, this time beside the Sea of Galilee, and this is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there: Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, James and John, and two other disciples. Now stop for just a second. I had you fill in the blank with two other disciples because it really bugs me. It really bothers me. There's only 11 disciples left. Judas is gone. He's just named 5. There's only 6 left. He spent 3 years with them. He doesn't remember the names of the just 2 other disciples. When I get to heaven, I'm going to have a conversation with John, and I'm going to ask him, first of all, who were the other 2 disciples? And why didn't you put their name in it? This is their moment. Verse 3, Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. We'll come too. So they went out in the boat and they caught nothing all night. They caught nothing. I wasn't with them. Then we'd know why they caught nothing, but they caught nothing all night. There's more going on in the story than meets the eye. What's really happening here is that Peter is going back to his old life. This isn't just a fishing expedition that's happening. Hey, let's go fishing this weekend. It's not that. Peter is going back to his former life before Jesus. And I'll tell you why he is. He feels disqualified. He feels like, I didn't measure up. I know, I'm glad Jesus is alive. I'm so grateful he's alive. But I can't be one of the disciples now. Not after what I did. I'm disqualified. I'm going back to my life before Jesus. But it's not working out. Never is going to. He knows too much. He's experienced too much. There are some times in our lives in which we screw up so badly, it is such a terrible thing maybe, and we just think to ourselves, what's the use? I cannot live this Christian life, and I'm just going to go back to my life before Jesus. The problem is that you now know what forgiveness feels like. You now know what his presence feels like. You've now already met the God of the universe. And besides that, he's not going to let you alone. Jesus came after them. He came after Peter. He came after them. He's going to come after you. Verse 4. At dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach. And the disciples couldn't see who it was. Now, we find out later in the story, the reason is because they have gone out fishing and they are 100 yards from shore, a football field from shore. And the sun's just coming up. They can't make out who the person is. They can barely see there is a person. But they do see there's a person. And Jesus calls out to them, fellows, have you caught any fish? And they yell back, no, we didn't catch any. And Jesus said, then put your net out on the other side, the right side of the boat, and you'll catch fish. And they're thinking, who is this guy? But we didn't catch any fish ourselves. Why not? Threw the net out on the right side, and 153 fish of all sizes, huge fish, different size of fish. 153 fish, we find out in the story, they caught immediately. Does the story ring a bell for you about earlier? Do you remember? 3 years before. Peter's already met Jesus, and they've already talked, and he's heard Jesus teach a little bit, but he's undecided. Didn't know what he's going to do with Jesus. But he and Andrew and James and John, this is their career. They're out fishing, and they've been fishing all night, and that night they didn't catch anything. And they came back in. It's early morning. Now it's maybe, 8 or 10 or something like that in the morning. And Peter is there washing out his nets, which you had to do. And then you put the net up and you get ready for the next night. You can only catch the fish with a net, that's shallow fishing, in the deep end at night. So they wait until the next evening. He's washing out his nets and he's getting all of his boat prepared for the next night. And all of a sudden there's Jesus as the teacher, and he's got a crowd of people that have gathered to hear him. And the crowd just keeps going bigger and bigger, and Jesus keeps moving back because he's trying to have a little bit of space. And now his feet are in the water, and he turns and he sees Peter washing out his nets, and he says to Peter, put your nets back in your boat. Would you bring the boat over here, let me get in so that at least I can teach and I've got enough space? And Peter said, sure. And Peter listens to Jesus teach, and he's mesmerized. And then Jesus says to Peter, okay, let's go fishing. You don't go fishing now, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. And Peter's probably thinking, these preachers don't know anything. But he knows he can't argue with this guy, so Jesus is looking at him and he says, okay, let's go. And they go out, and Jesus says, put your net out on the right side. And he does it. And he's got so much fish, he can't bring it in. He calls James and John, come out here, I need another boat. And they fill up both boats full of fish. Now look, Peter's whole life was about fishing, not because he liked fish, but because he liked money. And he had all these dreams and aspirations for his family, and his career was fishing, and every night he would go fishing so that he could sell the fish and have enough money for his family, but he's hit the mother lode. All of his dreams and aspirations, I want to be rich, I want to have enough money to take care of my family, and now it has happened. They got 2 whole boats full of fish. He's just racking up all the dollars in his brain. His greatest goal has been accomplished. And then he stops and he looks at Jesus, and he knows this is a miracle. And he gets on his knees and he says, I shouldn't even be in the same boat as you. I'm a sinful man. And Jesus said, no, I want you to follow me, and I'm going to show you how to catch people. And Peter walked away from the mother lode. He just walked away from all the fish. It was his aspirations of life. And once he got it, he realized it's so empty, it means nothing. And he walked away from what were his goals, and he went and followed Jesus. This had happened 3 years before, and now Jesus, you see what he's doing, Jesus is reenacting. He is really saying to Peter, do you remember when you got saved? Do you remember when you chose me? You remember when you came to me? You remember when you gave up everything and you said, I'm going to follow you? And in this moment, Peter is reliving that moment of 3 years before. And Jesus has set this all up. And John then says to Peter, That's the Lord. Peter's eyes are open, and suddenly the Bible says, the passage says, that Peter gets his robe on. Why? Because these are just men. They're fishing all night. They're in their skivvies. He's got to be dressed. He's got to go see Jesus. He gets his robe on, and then he dives into the water, and he's going to swim 100 yards. This is Peter. He never thinks anything through. He's going to swim 100 yards. Meanwhile, the other 5 guys, they're bringing all the fish in, bringing the net in, and now they're rowing. Now, you tell me, in a 100-yard dash in the water, who goes the fastest? The guy fully clothed? Or 5 guys rowing a boat? It's obvious. They had caught up. They had to have caught up with Peter. Here he is swimming. Here they are. Peter, get in the boat. No, I'm not getting in the boat. I'm going to swim all the way to shore. I'm going to show Jesus how hard I work. And that's exactly what he does. So who gets to the shore first? Probably they all got there together. Probably the other 5 said he might drown halfway. We better just stay with him. And they got to the shore. And when they got to the shore, they walked up to Jesus. And there he has got a fire, and he's cooking fish. Where did he get his fish? Why even ask the question? He's the Son of God, the creator of the universe. He could just look at the pan and fish would appear. It doesn't matter where he got the fish, but he's already got the fish, and he's cooking the fish. And here the guys have arrived, and what happens? Jesus looks at Peter, and he says, just to Peter, Peter, go get me some more fish out of the catch that you guys just got. He didn't look at the other guys. He didn't say that to anybody else, just Peter. Peter doesn't want anybody else getting in the story. Don't you go to the boat with me, I'm going by myself. And Peter goes to the boat, and he gets all 153 fish. How much did it weigh? And all of the heavy net. And he brings all of it, works so hard, and gets it up in shore. And then he takes a couple of the fish, and he takes it to Jesus. What is going on in the story? Jesus is orchestrating the entire story because here is who Peter is. Peter gets his whole self-worth from how hard he works, how much he accomplishes. Let me show Jesus just how hard I can work. I'm going to swim when I could just ride in a boat, but no, I'm going to swim 100 yards. And then I'm going to bring in all these fish all by myself. Nobody get in the way. I'm going to do it just me. And he is showing Jesus, see how hard I work for you? See what a great Christian I am? Peter doesn't say it, but he has to be thinking, you're really lucky, Jesus, to have somebody as good as me on your team. Remember, it's Peter who says, these other guys, they're going to leave you, but not me. No, not me. I will be there all the way to death. In reality, Jesus wants Peter, not what Peter can do. All of us have talents and abilities, and we are to serve. And the Bible says it's part of our spiritual growth, but God doesn't want what we can do. He wants us. Jesus is wanting us, not what we can do. Sometimes people do so many things for the church, they don't have any time for Jesus. Jesus always comes to find us, and he'll use whatever situation he can to get our attention. And don't think he's going to let you go, because he loves you too much to walk away from you. So maybe it's an illness, or maybe it's a catastrophe, or maybe it's Easter Sunday when you're at church and you didn't want to be here. Or maybe it's when you put your head down on a pillow at night and suddenly God walks in the room. But He loves you too much to walk away from you. Here's what I want you to grasp. God doesn't reject us, He rescues us. So notice the passage, verse 12. Now come and have some breakfast, Jesus said. And none of the disciples dared to ask Him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. And Jesus served them bread and fish. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to His disciples since He had been raised from the dead. And after breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, Peter replied, you know I love you. He didn't answer the whole question. He just said, yeah, I love you. Then feed my lambs, Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter said. You know I love you. Then take care of my sheep. And Jesus said a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And this time, Peter got upset. You know why? Because he now figured out what was going on. Jesus was asking him 3 times because there were 3 denials. He was asking Peter around a fireplace because it was around a fireplace that Peter said, I don't even know who that man is. Peter had said, I will go to my death when all these other people forsake you. So, Peter, do you love me more than all these other guys? How did that work out for you? So why is Jesus doing this? Is He rubbing it in? I don't think so. I think there's tenderness in His words. I think He is trying to show someone who has always based his worth on his performance and being better than other people, that Jesus' love and acceptance is not based on our performance. He just loves us because He loves us. The biggest enemy in our relationship with God is self-sufficiency. And we got a very talented church. We got all this talent and ability in this room. And it's very possible that we are living in self-sufficiency. I'm just asking you to consider. You realize it was not the sinners that caused Jesus trouble. They were all flocking around Him. He was called a friend of sinners. It was the self-righteous who didn't like Him. It was the self-righteous that actually put Him to death. Notice that Jesus doesn't say to Peter, now, how are you going to make this up to me? How hard are you going to work? What new things are you going to do for me? No, instead, all He asked him is, do you love me? And did you know what He then said to Peter when Peter said yes? He then said, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. What is He saying? You're not disqualified. You're not finished. I still want you. I still need you. Relationship is the gospel's goal. As we love Him, we will change. Nothing changes a person faster than grace and love. Law never changes anybody. But grace melts the hardest heart. Do you love me? And this is what He's asking. I know about the failures. I know about the wounds. I know about the disappointments and the hurts. But I'm the one that determines your destiny, not